and we're here with State Senator Lucio of Brownsville. We're doing different topics in different videos, but we're now going to talk about the leadership in Austin over the last 10 years or so, because we want to talk about the Senator's relationship with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. He's been a close ally of the Senator's. He's become a very close personal friend, as well as a strong working colleague. So the floor is yours, Senator. Your thoughts on Dan Patrick as a person and a lieutenant governor.
Dan Patrick came into the Senate, around 2006 or 8. I can't recall specifically right now, but it was around that time, and he was noted. He was noted or recognized as a Tea Party Republican. He was very smart, very energetic, and obviously he was a conservative thinker and wanted to do a lot of, I thought, pretty good things. Agreed with many of the things he stood for. I think what I liked mostly about him was that he had a beautiful heart, a Christian heart, and that's what drew me close to him. Quite frankly, Steve, I wanted to see if I could get that part of his the compassionate heart to look at some things that I had been working on for a while, and all of it kind of worked out when he became Lieutenant Governor in 2014, I believe. He was the only senator I've ever served with over all these decades who actually became Lieutenant Governor in a short period of time too. So I give him a lot of credit. He kept his word on everything he said he was going to do to his constituents. Before he became Lieutenant Governor, though, he did something that I can never forget, that kind of solidified how I felt about him. He demanded, quite frankly, and I use the word demanded, from the Lieutenant Governor at the time, David Dewhurst, that he would be when Senator Shapiro stepped down, that he would be the chair of education. But I want Eddie Lucio to be my vice chair. He told that to the Lieutenant Governor, and people heard him. And of course, I didn't think it would happen, but it did happen. He had been my vice chair in the International Relations and Trade, and we had worked together. So now he felt I should be his vice chair in education. I was elated because I had bills that I wanted to pass to feed hungry children, expand the lunch program into a breakfast program in the state, and he gave me a hearing, which I had never been able to get. And as his vice chair, obviously, I yielded a little bit of power thanks to him. And the vote was tied, 4-4, I think it was. And I turned to him and I says, I need your vote. And he voted with me. He says, he gabbled it down and says, Senator Lucio's bill will continue on its way to the floor of the Senate. And I couldn't sleep that night knowing that we had a chance to feed these hungry children. The University of Texas had done a study, Steve, and their study revealed that a child cannot learn in an empty stomach. A child that has hunger pains cannot and will not learn. So feeding hungry children was something most important to me. I'd grown up as one of 10 kids. Dad never let us go hungry, but we ran out of groceries before his paycheck, and thank God that Dad had good credit, and he was able to feed as well. But a lot of other families weren't that fortunate, and so I thought about those days, and I taught school back in the 60s, 1966. I was 20 years old. I taught a lot of kids that were very poor. It was something in me that drove me, especially after I would see my dad share whatever was left at the table with other poor people down the alley. So that became a big issue with me. And Dan Patrick made my dream come true, and I can never forget it. He's my own hero, and I just care for him a lot because of that. He also passed another bill that required cafeterias in schools during the summertime to feed the kids on the campuses that had gone there because of activities. The schools had opened up for activities. They were going to be fed with my second bill. Again, he helped me pass it. And Dan Patrick, no one can ever change my mind about his compassionate heart and his leadership abilities that he had. I don't remember maybe but once before that when the budget in Texas, and I'm going to do my research, but that I voted on was ever 31-0 in the Senate. The budget that we're in the budget cycle we're in today, the vote was 31-0. That meant that all the Democrats and all the Republicans voted for the budget. What is that? What kind of signal should that message should that send out? It should be that, hey, he brought them together and they passed a meaningful budget addressing education, healthcare, infrastructure, criminal justice issues. All the issues that we have that deal with the state of Texas were passed by 31 senators, and it was his budget. So I think that speaks volume of his leadership. And when people find out how the Senate addressed the blackout and the grid and all of this, which I'll talk about later on, you're going to know that the Senate held true to the needs of the people of our great state. So, Dan Patrick is just someone that I believe in. I put party affiliations aside and just say that this is a man, this is a Texan that deserves praise for doing what's right for the people of our great state.
You said earlier you don't think you've seen any other senator move up to become lieutenant governor. Well, there was Bill Ratliff, but just for one session, you'll recall.
Bill Ratliff was a fine gentleman. He was sort of middle of the road. The only mistake he made was to take my chairmanship because I didn't support him. I didn't vote for him to become lieutenant governor. I voted for Senator Wentworth out of San Antonio. Senator Wentworth was born in the Valley. He was born in Mercedes, Texas. He and I were county commissioners together, state representatives together, and state senators together. We had a wonderful friendship, and I liked the lieutenant governor. He was a fine man, but I did not support him. I also supported David Sibley because he and I sat next to each other on the floor of the Senate. So it was not because he was not a good man. He was a very good man. I just had not, made a commitment to him, and he didn't come to me, seeking, support from me when that took place. So no offense to the lieutenant governor that served a very short period of time, but he unfortunately took my chairmanship because I didn't support him, and that kind of, I felt badly that he should have at least talked to me, and so I could explain to him that I had made a commitment. Once I give a person my word, I keep it.
Let's go back to Senator Patrick,
Sure.
Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and his knowledge and interest on the border. I recall when he first got elected senator, he came down here on the Valley Legislative Tour, at that time run by Bill Summers for the Valley Partnership, and he went across into Progresso.
Right.
There was a meal there at Arturo's, and he really was interested in what was happening. Tell us about the importance of that trip and his appreciation of life on the border.
You've taken me back in time, Steve. I remember that moment. I remember sitting next to him. I questioned him as well, and and I asked him how he felt. I asked him what he thought so far of the valley, and that anything he needed, he could turn to me and count on me, giving him the information that he needed. So it grew on him. He loves the valley. He's come here many times. He's got a lot of people that he's established friendships with, prominent people and people out in our teachers, our law enforcement community, first responders. He's a very likable person, but you got to know him, and don't judge him because of party affiliations. Just get to know the man, the person. Yes, he was a student right from the start of the issues that were important to people here and the people he represented. He knew that by taking care of border security here, he would take care of his constituents in Houston. He knew that by helping, with infrastructure or international bridges and anything that would lead to better transportation, would spur economic development, create jobs, would be better for the state. So he would just write. He came around at the right time, and to do the right things. And I think that he has a great story to tell himself. At one point, I'm sure he'll share with all of us his journey through the state government.
Thank you for today's interview about Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Yeah.